Okay, great. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for carving out a little time out of your day here today. We really appreciate it. My name is Ed Matos. I'm the VP of Business Development here at NEIF, National Energy Improvement Fund. If you haven't come to one of these sessions yet, again, thank you for joining us. I want to give you a little just kind of insight into what we're doing here. We're very excited about it. So we launched this Go Greener Academy. This is the second month we're doing it. We're going to do a monthly sales training series. And so the goal of this is to provide you, our partner contractors, with sales training that you can use, action items that you could actually implement with your sales team. We know that with the array of, with the variety of contractors that we work with, sales teams look a lot different, right? It could be maybe one person selling to, 10 people selling. It could, maybe you have a sales manager, maybe you don't. Maybe it's the owner who's kind of doing, some selling, and you have one main salesperson, or your technicians are doing it. And so I understand there's a lot of different models out there, but my goal and our goal is to give you resources to build your sales team and kind of do things the right way and make sure that you're giving yourself the best shot to close more deals, win more business, because that's what it's all about when we're out there in the field. So a little bit about myself. I have been in the industry here for 12 years, I'd say. The majority of that has been in residential energy efficiency. I started in the field myself. We built a contracting company, a few of my friends and I, after college out in Long Island. We built it up to be a pretty big company. We were doing a lot of home performance, energy audits, HVAC. We had plumbing in-house. We had about 75 people at one point. We won the first U.S. Department of Energy Housing Innovation Award for sales, marketing, and savings. So I started doing everything from knocking on doors, canvassing, calling referrals, going to events, to moving into selling solutions in homes, right? So I say that one, to let you know that I've been there, and two, to let you know that I have a tremendous amount of respect for in-home sales. It is not easy. It is something that is challenging and can be exhausting. I also think very rewarding, but I've been in hundreds of homes. I've sold over 4 million HVAC in home performance. And then I was fortunate enough to move on, manage a team. And at one point I had 15 people under me. So I had about, 8 SDRs, sales development representatives, that were setting up appointments, calling leads, and following up with customers. And I had a full sales team, so of about 6 or 7. So again, I've been there, and I respect what you do. And so one of the things that I always say is we really don't have enough resources for sales in our industry. So in this session today, you can see what we're going to cover, and how to effectively train and educate your sales team, best practices for attaining and maintaining a high close ratio, different structures to incentivize and motivate your salespeople. So again, I wanted to take a session and really concentrate on the sales management side of things. Again, like I said, there's a lot of different ways that you may have your business set up, and the goal here is to give you resources to improve and to help your salespeople. So this first slide here, this is kind of my thesis. I didn't get this from a book or anything. This is what I believe. Sales training is as important and needs the same amount of time and attention from the beginning as technician, auditing, or construction training, right? So the key here is from the beginning. In our industry, there is so many resources and so many avenues to get technician training or energy auditing or construction, right? There's a plethora of organizations and certifications out there, but there really isn't anything for sales. And so what ends up happening is a lot of people come into the company, come in the organization, and they don't really get any formal sales training, and they don't have that continued sales training. You know, if you're bringing in somebody to install HVAC equipment, right? You're not just going to throw them in the field, have them, watch once or twice, and then say, "Hey, go ahead, you can lead this job." So, you're going to have a long apprenticeship process, and it's going to be a long time before they're actually leading this. And so it doesn't need to be quite as long in sales, but it needs to be taken seriously, and they need to be given the training and the support up front to grow into that position and have success. So how do we do that? So I want to call this our onboarding process. So you should always think about sales as an onboarding, and it should be comprehensive, diverse. And I always just say as a motto, just take your time, right? A good rule of thumb is that it takes, 1 to 2 months for someone to start to be good at selling the solutions that we sell, whether that's HVAC or whether that's, boilers or home performance, heat pumps. It takes a couple months. And then I always say my general rule of thumb is takes about 6 months to hit your stride, right? And so, regardless of experience level, you always want to train people in how you sell your services. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot, and I did for a number of years, I consulted with contractors, and I would go into the business and look at their whole sales process, look at their numbers, take a deep dive into close ratios and things. And then I would spend, anywhere from 6 months to a year with them, revamping their process and putting them in a position to actually do more business and grow. And one of the mistakes I saw often was companies would hire somebody who had some experience. Maybe they sold at Home Depot, maybe they sold at a different, HVAC company, or sold alarms, and they seemed, they had a great personality. And so they bring them in and say, "Oh, this guy's great. He knows what he's doing," and give him some resources. "Yeah, go watch this guy once and go ahead, go at it." And that is a big mistake, because you have not set the stage for them to be locked into your sales process, into your language, making sure that you sell the services, they're selling the services the way you want them to. So, if you have somebody that's very experienced, they maybe hit their stride maybe a little sooner, you give them a little longer leash. But this is a good rule of thumb, and this is what I mean by taking your time and taking it seriously. So how do we do this? Well, we learn from the best. I hope everybody, I wish I could see some faces. Generally I get some chuckles here. It's kind of hard on the webinar style, but hopefully everybody knows who the man is here, Mr. Miyagi. I think if you break down his training style, he is one of the best. So I created what we call my sales training mantra, and I encourage you to use this. You could print this out. You could put this on the wall. You can give this to your salespeople. It's called CORE. So what is CORE? Creativity, oversight, repetition, education. Okay, so I'm also a very big believer of just having, sometimes you go into companies and they have, motivational sales quotes on the wall, and they have reminders and they have mantras. I love that stuff, right? Anything we can do to keep our salespeople in a good mindset, right? And remind them that, hey, yeah, each day is sort of a new day, that you need to pay attention to all of these things. So CORE is my mantra. So what do we mean by that? In your onboarding process, you should use creativity. Look at this. This is a very creative way of training somebody, right? He's fishing and chilling, and this guy has to balance. And I'm gonna kind of speak to each one of these, of how you use, examples of creativity. Oversight. You got to have oversight. You can't just, again, hire somebody, have them watch a couple, estimates or whatever, and just let them loose. It's a recipe for disaster. So you have to have oversight. Repetition is, paint the fence here. How many times did he have to do that? It's the same thing in sales. You really need repetition on your company's your company's elevator pitch, for example, and hopefully everybody knows what an elevator pitch is. You know, if somebody asks you, hey, what do you do? Your salespeople should be able to have a nice, succinct, 2 to 3 sentence thing that says exactly what we do. So being locked in on what you want them to say, how you want them to say it, and then that repetition. And you can get that through role play. You can get that through just, consistent appointments. You can also get that, at like home shows and other places where you're forced to just really get your rap down, we call it. And education. I'm a big believer in education and not leaving that piece out. I love this scene where he's teaching about the bonsai tree. So if you don't, if you don't kind of have like this nice education piece, it seems very much sort of one-sided. So a way to accomplish this is using supporting tools. And I call this my 4 must-haves. So in any onboarding training process, when you're a sales manager and you want to create a comprehensive, diverse onboarding process, you want to take your time with that. These are my 4 must-haves for that. So 1 is readings. So I think readings are great. Find, little articles that support what you do and that are industry knowledge. You could use, BPI, you could use ACA. There's so many resources out there for you to pull from. What I like to do is I pick an article, maybe a 2-page article about some topic, could be technical, could be sales related. And within the first week, I have this stuff printed out and ready. I like to create a sales training manual, which sounds like a lot of work. It's not that much. You could just print a few things out, get things together, put it in a folder, put it in a binder. And then when your people come in, they already have these resources. You look organized, you are organized, and that goes a long way too. So with readings, I would give my salespeople a reading and say, hey, what I want you to do is read this. Just highlight, 5 to 10 things that stand out to you or resonate with you, or you have questions about, and we're going to talk about that on Friday morning, right? I'll give that to them on like on a Monday or Tuesday. So come Friday morning, we sit down and talk about it. So now you have some accountability with that too. It's not a great sign if you say, hey, let's regroup on this on Friday, and they haven't done that, and you've just hired them the company. So then you can start to set the stage for, hey, this is not how we operate. But 9 times out of 10, they have done it. They're excited. You start to share ideas. You talk through things. So again, you're ingraining that knowledge that you want them to have that's applicable to your business. So scripts, big fan of scripts. Scripts you don't have to go crazy with this, right? If we talk about an elevator pitch, what does your company do? Who are you? 2-3 sentences that everybody's using. You write that down. There's a little script, hey, we want everybody to say, this is what we do and how we do it. And this is our elevator pitch, right? Scripts of what you want, how you want them to describe the financials of their job, especially when it comes to financing, right? Using the right language, like, hey, we have a monthly payment plan for you that allows you to pay for this affordably over time. Our partners are the National Energy Improvement Fund. It's a great program for you, allows you a lot of flexibility. There's no prepayment penalties. So putting these things in the language so they have something to read and practice with. Practicing is a big part of sales too. I always challenge my salespeople to practice. Shadowing is just like it sounds. You want to have your salespeople shadow you if you're doing the sales, or whoever your best salesperson is, but you also want to reverse that and have them shadow, and have that go the other way. So that person, or you're shadowing them once they get going. And that's when you can take notes and provide coaching, right? So whenever I'm shadowing somebody, I'm not talking at all. I'm just taking notes. I'm letting them run the show. And then after, we go get, a cup of coffee or go to a diner, and I'll share these notes. There's nothing better than kind of real-time feedback training that you can provide for your salespeople. It goes a long way. So supporting tools, again, utilize scripts to support your sales process. I can't stress that enough. But here's that word, sales process. You know, one of the core pieces to this kind of whole premise is you have to establish for your organization is what is your sales process. I'm sure some of you do. I'm sure some of you are kind of feel like you're maybe halfway there, and some of you are like, oh, I gotta work on that, right? And when I say sales process, that means what exactly are your salespeople doing every time they go to a house, right? And so a sales process should be replicable. It should be one that you can train others on, and ultimately get the point where you know that let's say you have 5 people selling, you know they're all doing the same thing out there in the homes. Like, of course, everybody's going to have their little personalities, and they're going to, you know, throw their own flavor in, and that's fine. We want that. But when we get to the door, you know, we say this is how we prep our homeowners. This is how we set expectations. Maybe you have like a, you know, a 10 slide presentation. I'm a big fan of doing this, using like a tablet or something and taking somebody through a few slides. Hey, can I have 10? I want to sit down with you for 10 minutes, just show you some more information about our company, about how, you know, how we work and our affordable monthly payment options. So when I show you here at the end your solution, you're ready to go. Okay, great. So you sit down with them, you're building that relationship with the customer. So take 10 minutes in the middle of it to actually sit down with them, show them some slides, educate them, and again, set yourself up to close before you leave, right? So that's a process. The process could be, here's what we say at the door. At some, you know, you get started with your assessment. At some point, you're gonna sit down and show them this little presentation, and then you're gonna do a few more things. You're gonna develop your work scope, and then you're gonna show them and pitch them your work, your work scope or their job or their proposal, their solution at the end, and ask for the business. That's a sales process, right? But it's really locking that in and making sure that your sales team is all doing the same thing. That's the only way that you can really track. That's the only way you can really track close ratios, is if you know that everybody's locked in. So with shadowing, I had to put this one here. I always say, you know, don't let them go. Stay close by, right? This picture here of Daniel's son. This is anybody new to sales. This is generally how they feel. You know, if someone's a veteran, you know, they don't probably not getting nervous like that. You know, doesn't mean they don't need the support. Like I said, treat everybody the same regardless of experience. But this is how people new to in-home sales feel. Trust me, I've seen it. And so our job as managers, our job is to provide that support and make sure they feel good as they go through. So one way to do that is through pipeline meetings. Pipeline meetings are a must. So I hope by this point you're all using some sort of CRM. There's so many out there. They're low cost. CRMs are a must in actually tracking, okay, who do we go to, where are the deals at, you know, what are our numbers? So what I say pipeline meetings, let's say you have someone who's the sales manager and maybe you have 2 salespeople. That sales manager should meet individually with each of those salespeople once a week for an hour. You should be pulling up the CRM and going through the different stages. Hey, tell me what happened with this customer. Where's this one sitting? Okay, this one I see, you know, they said that they wanted to do it. What happened? Where are we at now? Right? So this is a process for you to help your salespeople. And when it's done right, it helps you as a manager. It also helps your salespeople. I actually used to look forward to my pipeline meetings with my sales manager, because I knew that he would help me think of better ways to follow up. So it's not about being annoying. It's not about micromanaging. It's about setting up a process for both of you to look back and say, hey, how do we best follow up? How do we best close more deals and get creative with reaching out to your customers? So pipeline meetings, again, I recommend an hour a week. Set it on the calendar, stick to it. So let's talk about close ratios a little bit, because I want to throw something, you know, a little bit new at you that you probably haven't heard or thought about. So close ratio is this word we hear a lot. There's this general idea, what's your close ratio, right? And so a close ratio as a business is, hey, if we set X amount of, estimates or assessments or, whatever you want to call it, and then we close X amount of jobs, right? That's like your most basic close ratio. One, if you're not tracking that, you should be. Two, make sure it's correct. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in a contract and say, hey, what's your close ratio? Oh, we close about, 45%. I'm like, wow, that sounds really high. And then I look into their data and actually they're really closing at like 20% because they're not actually tracking it the right way. So you should know what your real close ratio is. I think a good close ratio in this industry is anywhere from 30 to 40%. If you're closing, if your salespeople are closing 4 out of 10, that's really good. If they're closing 5 out of, if they're closing half their visits, that's good. So again, have also realistic expectations. That's why you need volume of appointments. But another way to think about this is you tracking what I call first visit jobs won, second visit jobs won. So depending on your process, let's say you have a process where you go meet with the person and then you try to close there, which is a lot of people do. Some people try to close on the second visit, but let's say you're trying to close on the first visit. Track how many of those are actually signed at that first visit. Like that's an important metric. Are we closing a lot of first job visits, or is it going back, whether that's via Zoom or in person? I expect my people to go in person, but how many are being closed on the second visit or the second talk, right? That's an important metric. Maybe we need to work on our process up front so we close more at that first visit, right? Less time wasted, less money, better for everyone. Another last one here is what I call close held ratio. And this is a pretty cool one. So if you have a model where you send a technician or an energy energy consultant, comfort specialist, whatever we want to call them, there's a lot of terminology. If you send them for their initial assessment and then they're coming back, setting up a closing and actually presenting that solution and trying to close at a second date, that second date I would track how many of those appointments actually hold. So real story for myself, I had a younger guy I was working with, and he just didn't seem to be getting to the numbers quickly enough as his peers, and something was off. And we were tracking this close held ratio, and I looked at the guys that were having success, and they were holding that appointment. So they were holding that appointment 90 to 93% of the time. He was holding that appointment, it was about 68% of the time. So he had a problem firming up his second appointment, actually holding that closing. People were canceling on him. People were, rescheduling. He wasn't getting back in the house. So I identified that problem. So then I went back out with him and I saw, okay, how are you firming up appointments? What are we doing? What's our process? And we worked on that one thing for a month or two. And all of a sudden he got his close held ratio back up to like 85%. And sure enough, his closing ratio followed along with that. So these are different ways of thinking about and managing closing ratio that will all lead to more volume. So compensation structures, I definitely want to touch on this. You have to create innovative, motivating sales structures for your people. Goals, incentives. I like monthly goals that are associated with bonuses. I like quarterly as well, because a monthly, if you don't hit that, then you're still motivated to meet the quarter one. Prizes, awards, you have to make it fun. Dinners, bowling, whatever. Try to create a team atmosphere. There's a reason sales is so often correlated with sports, is because you need to stay motivated, and this is the way to do it. This is the way to make sure that your people are going that extra mile. At the end of the month, what's gonna push them to set up 5 more appointments? Well, if there's a bonus attached to it, and if they can close 2 or 3 of those deals and get a bonus, you better believe they're gonna work harder. So you gotta think about this. You can get creative. You can do it your own way. There's no right or wrong answer. Figure out what works for your business, what you can afford, and set this environment up. There's nothing bothering me more when I go into an organization that's just a stagnant, boring sales organization. What's the numbers? It's not how we want to roll. It's not how you're going to keep your people motivated. So last slide here, and then I'm happy to take any questions. I appreciate you listening. I think this is pretty straightforward. Love this quote here from Mr. Miyagi. But the idea here is that we are responsible for the outcome of our salespeople, right? And this sounds simple, but this is a shift. This is a shift in thinking. A lot of managers say, "Oh, the salespeople are responsible. So when they're not hitting the numbers, what's going on? What's wrong with you?" I challenge you to say, when they're not hitting your numbers, what can I do differently? Why are they not hitting their numbers? Where I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible for their outcome. That's going to force you to get back in the field with them, to get more training, to utilize sales training, to utilize sales meetings in the right way and things like that. So that's it here for today. I really, again, appreciate your time. These sessions are going to be recorded. They're going to be up on our Go Greener website for you to access. You could take this and you could play it for other salespeople. You can again, you can utilize this as much as you want. And our goal is to give you these tools. We have last month's session up there, which was about leveraging financing for fall sales. So if you didn't hear that one, you can go back and hear that one. It's all on our website that you have access to as an approved contractor. So Jen, I think we have maybe a couple questions. If you guys could just chat the questions in, we will answer them if you chat them in the Q&A, the chat feature there.
Yeah,
so,
we have a question here. What are specific compensation plans?
What are specific compensation plans? So again, listen, it's gonna vary, by business, right? But if I'll tell you what I like to do, the way that I like to set it up is I'm a fan of a higher base. I go into a lot of organizations that say, "Oh, we just have this really low base and everything's commission, after that, or almost like no base and just all commission." To me, that's very demotivating. If you want good people, I would give them a good, consistent base, and then set up your comp plan. So you really have to look at, okay, if so-and-so sells, let's say somebody sells $1 million in a year. Well, then in our business model, if they sell that at our margins, like they should be making, call it 100 grand, right? So then maybe their base is, 60K, and then your compensation, if they sell that, is going to be another 40 grand. So they're making 100 grand. Well, then you tier it up from there. And that's how you can really create these creative, sales compensation structure. Well, hey, if you do 1.5 million, you're going to get a larger bonus. We're going to give you more commission on that next 500,000. So now you're making 120,000, right? And again, I'm just using these numbers. These aren't depending on the size of your business, but you really always want to make sure that your salespeople are compensated fairly and that they're motivated by that. So putting in bonuses and kickers at different levels of success is a very smart way to do it, right? As opposed to just you make the same commission, all the way through. So if you sold 2 million, then you make the same. Well, no, as they sell more, which is better for you, they should have bonuses and they should have increases in kickers to make more. So that's the way I would think about it when approaching setting up a compensation structure. Any other questions there, Jen?
Yeah, we have a few more here. Do you have any recommendations for sales software? If so, what features are the most important? For example, show good, better, best, or show monthly payments.
Okay, cool. Well, yes. So a couple things I would say there. So at NEAF and as an approved contractor, we have a couple resources for you that you can use. I would encourage who's ever asking this to reach out to your sales, to reach out to your account manager. That's Randy Back in certain territories, or Chris Shelkey. So we have a good, better, best tool literally on our website that you can show people. You can plug in the monthly payment number. You can plug in the financing numbers. It'll show you monthly payments. And I talk about this a little bit in the previous session, where if all you need is an iPad, you can even do it on your phone. I would recommend some sort of tablet, but you can pull up, hey, if you want to do, this cheaper, just this system right now at 6,000, here's what your monthly payment's going to be. If you want to, do the add-ons, 10,000, but if you really want to do the whole thing, which I think you do, that's 15,000, and you can show them the numbers right there with their affordable monthly payment. That's the best way to do it, because you're actually showing them the small number they can wrap their heads around and say, hey, and then you say, hey, so if we can really do everything now, which I know is best for you and your family, that's going to be $200 a month. Does that sound like something that can fit in your budget? Yeah, you know what? I think I could afford that. All right, great. Well, let's get going on that. I believe that's the best decision for you too. So we have a monthly payment, good, better, best. Please reach out. That's something that we've put in place for you. We also have a monthly payment calculator that's on your gateway page that you can just show people in the home as well. So we are also coming out with a sales proposal tool. So when you talk about software, there are things like out there, like an HVAC builder, things like that, where you can create a nice PDF proposal. We are actually creating one of those internally that you're going to have free access to. So my goal here is to continue to create resources for you to use. So please stay tuned on that, because this is something I've seen companies pay for that we're going to actually offer to you for free, where you can just plug in a few numbers and create a nice little PDF co-branded sales proposal that has different numbers on there, has your good, better, best. And instead of writing stuff down, or instead of having kind of, a proposal you don't love, we're going to provide that for you. So I would leave it at that for now.
All right, and then we have another commission question. Is commission typically based on profit margins or total sales?
Yeah, so I prefer to do it just on total sales, right? When you start looking at profit margin, then you got to go, you got to wait till after the job and look at, what happened on the job, and it just gets too complicated. Another thing about commissions is you don't want to make it too complicated. Nothing annoys salespeople more when you have these complicated, sales commissions. And so let's say, I understand the idea and the intent around that is like, well, if you sell a better job and then, we make more money on it, like you should make a little more. But that means you then have to wait till the job's done and go back and, how many man hours and what happened? Did we mess up over here? And it's just too much. And, you're playing the law of averages. So I 100% believe in doing it on just total sales and creating that number. Is it 3%? Is it 4% over your base? And, let your project management team run the jobs. The things are going to happen. We know that. But as long as your margins are well, what can you afford with it? If your average margins are 35%, what can you afford in that to give your salespeople the right commission? Then base it on the overall sales. That's the easiest, best way and most motivating way to do it, with the least headache. So, Jen?
We have 2 more questions. Can you offer a sample role play?
Can offer a sample role play? Yes. So in our last session, please go to our Go Greener Academy. Jen, can you share the link in this, just right to our page? We're actually, we're going to send all of you a follow-up email as well. So we have a page that's living on our website. So if you go to my last session, the first session that I did last month, I have 3 or 4 script examples of how I would present, talking about the solution in the home, the language I would use, not using things like, report, which is it's never calling it a report in the home, calling it a solution. What is a report? That's literally something we've been trained throughout our lives to read and go look at and draw conclusions from. So say, hey, here's your report. And they say, great, well, I guess I'll read it and talk to you next week. No, I have the best solution for you to make your home comfortable and energy efficient. Here it is. Let's get moving on this, right? Solutions, not reports. So I do this in the last session. Please go back, listen to it, and those slides are up, and you can take a couple of those and you can use those as role play examples.
And then we have, what CRM programs do you suggest?
Good question. So there is one, so, this is just personal. We don't have a partnership with them. I'll put that disclaimer out there. There's one that I really like called Pipeline Drive. I think it's just excellent for HVAC and sales. I think it's simple, tracks the different buckets that I'm referring to. I think it's affordable. To me, that's one of the best ones. I mean, I think Salesforce is way too much for the majority of our businesses and too expensive. That being said, I do know there's a couple companies that have really locked in on Salesforce and have done, but if you don't invest the proper time, you're going to waste a lot of money. So Pipeline Drive is one I like a lot. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. You can check it out.
Awesome. And that looks like that was the last question. Thanks so much, Ed.
All right, great. Well, again, thank you everyone for your time. Really appreciate it. We look forward to continuing to do these series. Please check back. We're going to do them each month with different topics. And we look forward to, assisting you and providing sales resources and providing sales training so you can grow your business. So thanks everyone. Happy selling.